Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 161. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me here in Las Vegas. In fact, here in my backyard. That is what is up. It is a Ballast Point home game. We're going to get to all that momentarily, including Mr. Cold Coffee. But before we bring him in, I want to just throw out an apology. Just right away off the top. I just want to apologize. I was in Atlantic City last week all by myself, and I'm telling you, I wanted to do an episode number 160 and a half. It was a damn good card, and there was stuff to talk about. There was some controversy. There was some fun. There were definitely things that I wanted to speak on, and I tried. Damn it, I tried. I sat down. I went back to my hotel room. I edited some audio. I got the Kevin Lee scrum. I cut that down a little bit. Got the Frankie Edgar audio. Cut that down a little bit. Eddie Alvarez, who was on fire as a guest fighter, cut that down a little bit. Had it all set up to go, and then it came time to start doing my parts, to go ahead and start reliving the night. And at that point, it was a little after 6 a.m., I'm not going to lie. And it became a little hard just to stay awake. The day caught up to me, the week caught up to me, and I was struggling. I was struggling to get it done. And in fact, I was struggling so bad, I basically got about halfway through the damn show, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't even know if I'm making any damn sense. And B, I know this sounds awful, so I just had to call it off. I had to just throw up the white flag and admit failure and admit defeat. And it was tough for me to do that, I'm telling you. But for sheer entertainment value alone, not only do I offer an apology, but I bring you just a couple of minutes of what we shall call the lost half episode, so you can see just how freaking delirious I actually was. Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 160 and a half. My name is John Morgan here in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where UFC Fight Night 128 is officially in the books. And when I say officially in the books, I'm saying that shit's been in the books for a while. It's 6:20 in the morning right now. That's right. 6:20 in the morning. But we're sitting down to do this podcast. And when I say we, I mean me and a couple of ice cold, frosty beverages. Got a whole army of those bad boys just ready to help out, get us through the night. UFC Fight Night 128. Kevin Lee defeated Edson Barbosa in the main event. We'll jump into that. I will say, listen, I kind of hated on Atlantic City a little bit. I mean, I hated on it, but I probably didn't give it the most glowing review of all time earlier this week. But it ended up being pretty fun. Was not quite a sellout. You know, I told you guys I'd heard there was about 9,000 tickets sold. It sounds like maybe there wasn't a ton of walk-up, which makes sense. Listen, hotel rooms are expensive here on the weekend. Again, we told you it's difficult to get here. Sounds like the final attendance was a little over 9,500 people. A $900,000 gate, not bad. If you can get close to $1 million or break $1 million on a fight night, UFC officials are pretty happy about that. Art Davie, damn it, I'm sounding like his own team. Merab Dvalishvili and Ricky Simon picked up the Fight of the Night award. We will definitely be talking about that fight. And then Sierra Bahadurzada and David Branch picked up the $50,000 Performance of the Night bonuses. All right, let's start with the main event, right? Might as well start there. Oh, no. Before we start the main event, let me just talk about the atmosphere itself. So I did spend some time in the front of the house, some time in the back of the house. Was kind of moving back and forth a little bit. Fortunately, they were very, very close to each other. Was a nice atmosphere all night. Multiple fights in the crowd, like a lot of fights in the crowd. Like even to the point that the local reporters are kind of like, ooh, this is kind of embarrassing for us. Yeah, a lot of fights in the crowd. So the New Jersey crowd they were doing their thing. I'm telling you, it gets wild up here. Atlantic City gets wild. Jersey gets wild. And they were definitely kind of doing a little extracurricular activities out there in the crowd. It was cool, though. A couple of former UFC employees and UFC important people, we'll say. Dave Schaller was in the house for a little bit. He was a late arrival. Of course, the former UFC PR director. He works for the 76ers now of the NBA. They were down in Miami. Their plane landed tonight in Philly, and he actually made the drive up from Philly to New Jersey. He actually lives in New Jersey, so he has a house pretty close to Atlantic City, from what I understand. He stopped by for a little bit. Actually got a chance to talk to him. And Burt Watson was in the house as well. He was in a different area as well. I didn't get a chance to speak to him, but that was pretty cool. It was a good atmosphere. It was packed. It was busy. Again, not quite a full sellout, but it was definitely a good night of fights. The main event, Kevin Lee defeated Edson Barbosa. Exhale a little bit. A little after 6 in the morning, I could finally decompress. Tense fight, no question about it. Kevin Lee, we knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to keep the pressure. He wanted to wrestle. We talked about, if you listen to the show earlier in the week, he said, he kind of teased out there that he wanted to strike a little bit. And I thought it was pure posturing basically on his part. But he did try to strike a little bit and had some success. He actually had some success striking, because ultimately this was stopped by the doctor in the 5th round. The eyes were just horribly beat up for Edson Barbosa. And a lot of the damage was done on the ground, but some of it was done on the feet as well. So Kevin Lee was having some success on the feet, but again, a very, very dangerous game to play with Edson Barbosa. I mean, good Lord, one of the best strikers in all the UFC. There's just no question about it. And he showed it once again, because he got dominated early, looked exhausted, man. In the 2nd round, just looked like he was tired already, just, defending takedowns and trying to scramble and trying to get back to a decent position. It was tough for him. But he gutted it out. 3rd round through a spinning wheel kick and caught Kevin Lee right on the top of the head. Kevin Lee tried to cover up a little bit and tried to block, but caught him on the top of the head. And my God, I mean, one of the stanky legs, the chicken dance, whatever you want to call it, man. Like, Kevin Lee was flopping all over, man. Could not control his legs, and yet was able to regain position, get the takedown. Part of it, I think, was, Edson Barbosa tried to go for this choke and mistake, right? Mistake. You think back recently to, like, Sean O'Malley and Andre Sukumtat, where if Sukumtat would have just backed up, he could. I don't think it was quite that bad. I think that Edson Barbosa just saw a chance to finish the fight, and he was wobbled, and he was hurt, and he was tired. And he's like, man, I got this guy. Wait. Kevin Lee was wild. Yeah. That should give you just a little taste. Just a little taste of how slowly my brain was firing at that point, and why ultimately we had to call a halt to it. And I will say, I did battle on for that moment. I did carry on. At this point, let me explain to you. My eyes are actually closed because I'm not actually talking to anybody in the room, right? I'm just in my room by myself. I'm not actually talking to anybody. I'm literally just by myself. And because I'm by myself, I really don't have anybody to look at. So I figure, well, I'll just rest my eyes just for a little bit. I mean, as I talk, I can talk about MMA with my eyes closed, right? I mean, I'm not actually speaking to anybody that I have to take nonverbal cues from. So if I just want to close my eyes while I talk, I can do that, right? I mean, how bad would that be? And, yeah, this is kind of what happened. All right, so that was the Motown phenom, Kevin Lee, celebrating his victory again. He did get tested, but I thought he came through with shining colors. Now, he's definitely shining colors? Flying colors. Good Lord. Good Lord. That's what happens at this time of night. Listen, I'm high on Kevin Lee. I am. And I think he showed it tonight. Now, he didn't look flawless. He got caught. He got booed a little bit. But, I mean, that was a pro New Jersey crowd, which means they're pro Edson Barbosa. It's easy to hate on Kevin Lee. A lot of people do hate on Kevin Lee. I think the fans, were booing at times that they didn't need to boo. That's for sure. But we'll see. Kevin Lee, I don't necessarily think he's going to get the next title shot, but he's going to be in for a big fight. Now, something else he said that was interesting, touched a little bit on that 165, admitting that 165 would sure be nice for him. I got to say, I'm starting to come around to this. I, for the longest time, kind of felt like the divisions need to stay as they were. We didn't need to go
mess around divisions and thinning things out and changing history books and all those things. But I'm starting to get on that side of that 165. I see a lot of people that I think would make sense there, and I do feel like there's a lot of young talent coming up as well. It's not like we're just saying like older guys that could be in there. No, young talent. I think a 165 class would help out a lot. You'd have to get rid of 170. I mean, you wouldn't do 165, 170, and 175. It did strike me the more I thought about this. I know that Tyron Woodley and the UFC don't always have the best relationship ever. Maybe if there was a new weight class, we could strip Tyron Woodley of the title and figure out where he goes. I mean, maybe he could make a choice. He could go to 165 or 175. I don't know. That's kind of extraneous and just a little bit of bonus talk. But I did think about that maybe being possible. But I am starting to feel some love for the idea of this 165. And again, with everything that's going on, Project Spearhead, all the stuff with Leslie and everything that happened, I do wonder, is that something that fighters could at least have a little bit of a say-so? A seat at the table. Just a seat at the table to say whether or not they think this is a viable weight class and whether it can happen. So, I don't know. Something to think about. Now, something else to think about. Eddie Alvarez was a guest fighter tonight, and I'm going to say he may have had a frosty beverage or two. I'm just going to preface that now. But I thought he had some awesome answers, and normally I wouldn't necessarily play a full scrum from a guest fighter, but I thought his answers were amazing. I thought his attitude was amazing. And listen, he believes he's right there in the mix as well. We'll see. Obviously it would have been cool to have Eddie Alvarez fighting a card here in Atlantic City. That certainly didn't happen, but they brought him in as a guest fighter, and he said, listen, he's ready to line up something big, and believes that maybe he deserves a shot.
So there you go, Cold Coffee. I tried my best. I did my best. I thought I put in a pretty damn good effort. But at the end of the day, I just waved the white flag and was forced to tap out. I was forced to admit defeat. Was forced to admit that I could not carry on. I needed you there, man. I needed you there.
Why, so we can both fall asleep together?
Yes.
I was waiting for the snoring to happen. I was waiting for the snoring to kick in. I was half expecting that you were going to be snoring.
There's something about watching you, because we sit like we are now sometimes, just across from each other at a table, both looking into our computers and working.
I was like you're setting up some weird romantic.
No.
I stared to your eyes opposite of the table.
No, we're just on opposite sides of the table looking at our computers, and I do notice from time to time when you start to nod off at your editing, and there's something about it that kind of, I don't know, it energizes me a little bit. It makes me feel better about myself.
Because you laugh.
Yeah, I laugh a little bit. All right, so that didn't work out. I apologize, but now we're going to continue things on. We are on my back patio here. It is a Ballast Point home game. We do have the Tart Peach Kolsch rolled out, a German-style ale with natural flavors.
I wonder if I always get leery when I hear natural flavors. Did you hear the story about the natural flavorings?
I'm not sure. I want to know what you're setting up here.
It's a lot of times when you get foods and it says with natural flavors or natural flavoring, it's there's a certain thing that's taken from, I want to say, a beaver's butt.
Oh my goodness!
And it's used in like a lot of, I think, raspberry flavorings or something like that.
Are you googling beaver's
I'm
butt
looking
and
up. I'm looking up raspberry
flavorings?
natural flavors, natural flavorings, and beaver.
Okay, first of all, my dudes at Ballast Point did not use any beaver
anus.
parts.
It popped up. Beaver anus is one of the first things.
No.
It says beaver butt really used to flavor your dessert. Castoreum. That's it. Castoreum's the castor sacs from a mature North American beaver. And, yeah.
Who was the first person that figured that out?
It's probably the same person that just figured out, like, hey, we could take some of these, like, coffee beans and put them through an animal, and they secrete them out of their butt, and then they're processed, and then we can make coffee from them.
If we make coffee then, that's when it's really good.
That's when it's really good. But, yeah, I have no idea how they figured it out or if they just figured whatever, but it's like this castoreum or whatever, it has like a raspberry flavoring,
All
or
right.
they do something. But yes,
I'm going out on a limb and saying my boys at Ballast Point did not use any beaver anus in the creation of this tart peach Kolsch.
It is
which,
delicious.
By the way, our buddy Steve, who hooked us up, said he had just gotten this into the distributor. It has not even hit the streets in Las Vegas yet. I guess they've made it before. It's a seasonal that they made before, and they brought back. And, man, it is nice for the summertime.
It is. I mean, I like. It's another one of these ones. If you guys like sour beers, it's got like a sour front end, but it's not too sour, and the peach kind of balances a little bit, and the peach isn't too overpowering. So yeah, it's very, very good. But just to go back to the natural flavors, anytime I hear natural flavors, all I can think about is beaver anus and this natural flavor. Read it up, folks. Google it. Google natural flavorings and beaver, and watch what you do. It. You will never look at food the same.
You'll never look at beaver anus the same.
Next time you see beavers, like, I wonder if that ass tastes like raspberries. But you'll never think of natural flavorings ever the same after reading this. So yeah, it's fucked up. But but no, this is good. This does not taste like beaver butt.
I assume.
But yeah, I was wondering about and maybe our guys at Ballast can listen to, like, I wonder why they choose the certain fish that they use, like the sculpin. One of the sculpins that has like a, isn't that like a, I don't know if it's like a, it's not a blowfish. It looks like a. What are those?
Clownfish?
Like clownfish, or
Yeah.
like one of those ones on the other end. This, I don't know, is that like a mackerel or some sort of a big, or is that a tuna? I don't know. But I always wonder. I wondered. It's a nautical beer, with the whole Ballast Point thing. So yeah, I always wonder what makes them choose the fish and the stuff that they use. But this one is really good. Maybe because you get sour because you try to catch a nice big fish like that and you never do, and you get sour.
I'm guessing you
So it's
put
like
more
a
thought
sour
into
drink?
this than they did.
Probably. They're just like, oh, let's just pick a random fish,
It does taste good for the summertime.
It is. It's a
The
nice
tart
one.
peach is good, and it's pretty solid. All right, so UFC Fight Night 128. It was a couple days ago, and I was there by myself. But seeing as how I only got a few minutes of the and a half episode in there, I did just kind of want to, ask your thoughts on a couple of the big topics, because a couple of them are still going on. I guess first, probably the easiest place to start is with Leslie Smith. Interesting the fallout that's come on from this. Props to Leslie, who gave us complete access to her all week, which is amazing. We did the long sit-down interview in her hotel room beforehand, and then, of course, after everything went down with Aspen Ladd missing weight and the bout being canceled, and Leslie essentially you can't really say it's released, and I hate that the headlines have said that she's been cut or she's been released, because that's not really true. Her contract has been played out.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they're well within their right to not offer another deal. So you can't really say she's been cut, but at the same time, you don't necessarily get the feeling that they're rushing out to re-sign her either.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know what to feel about it, because I definitely applaud Leslie for having the balls to fight this fight, because she knew the repercussions were coming her way.
Yep.
She knew that she was going to face some hardships. And then it happens, and you think, I guess maybe because it just didn't happen the way we thought it would happen. Nobody ever envisioned a fight being canceled and weight not being made and all that. So they're well within their legal rights to kind of do what they did, I guess. But, behind the scenes, she's made it clear that she's not been afraid to ruffle their feathers a little bit, that she's not been afraid to call them out on every little thing, from whether or not the per diem that she was receiving was the right amount of per diem, from whether or not, basically every little thing that she could push back on, she was pushing back on. And I did have some people, as much time as we gave Leslie to tell her side of the story, I guess it's only fair to say that I had a couple UFC people behind the scenes who, of course, can't speak on record at this point, but just said, listen, I'm not going to lie, she's tough to work with. And because she's tough to work with, it's just easier if we don't have to. But there's where it's going to come down to it, right? Can Leslie, can Lucas Middleborough, and the powers that be, can they prove that this was essentially, some type of retribution for her desire to organize a labor union? Because I don't know if she's going to be able to prove that in a court of law. If she is, it's going to be hugely problematic for the UFC, but that seems like a pretty uphill battle, because they can just say, you and I can point to numerous people who have fought out their contracts and didn't get contract offers back.
Yeah, there's no guarantee, like, after you get you finish your contract, that they are going to renew it.
Stevie Ray was the guy that it recently happened to,
Yeah,
and he had no problems.
It's one of those things that, I think a lot of guys, it happens so much where fighters are able to renegotiate before they meet the end of the contract that most people assume that it's either automatic or that it would already have happened at this point. And the fact that it hasn't happened is more telling than anything else. But
Right.
I think a lot of times it could just be a matter of, I mean, granted, I do believe that they're probably happy that the squeaky wheel is not
Of course.
happening.
Of course.
You know, but I haven't ever really heard that she was tough to work with. You know, Leslie had the greatest things to say about the staff that she dealt with.
Yep.
You know, said it was great for her. You know, now if they're only saying that she's tough to deal with when it comes to something like this, they expect somebody to play ball. Then hey, you know, I don't fault her for playing hard in that situation. You know, if the bout was agreed that we fight at a certain weight, and then you know that doesn't happen, and she says, well, hey, let's redo this contract. Let's figure it out.
Well within her right.
Yeah, and if they decide that hey, that's not playing fair, that's ultimately what the whole Project Spearhead, the whole Ali Act, the whole everything is about. Is like it's to the letter. And if this one person who has been really spearheading a lot of it doesn't stand for that, then what has all this talk been for? It's all for nothing.
She had to,
She
right?
had to
take
do
that
what she
stand.
had to do. She had to take a stand. But I mean, the fact that they've kind of said yes, you know, she's fulfilled her contract. You know, while most of us expect that means they're not immediately turning right back around to offer it. It doesn't seem like that door has been closed officially, so that's always still sort of there. She's saying the right things on her end, so she hasn't burned any bridges. She's saying that, you know, everybody she worked with was nice. It was a good organization. You know, she's not burning her bridges. She's
Right.
keeping that door open. But, you know, you could definitely see where if they have an out from having a squeaky wheel within the organization, I could see where, you know, they're not going to be jumping, you know, to bring her back. And while I love Leslie's fights that she's given and she's tough, she goes in there, she fought Cyborg for Christ's sakes. She took fights that a lot of people didn't want to take. You know, were they the most exciting fights? Perhaps not. You know, is she giving you a ton of finishes and a ton of stuff where you're like, oh, I just can't wait to see that next fight? I mean, she had the.
She was in some scraps.
I mean, but yeah, but you look at it, I mean, she lost to Ai. That was a stoppage. Her last Rinnikai decision.
And I was just
Irene
because
Adana
there was blood
decision.
everywhere, and I because
You know, Duke was a knockout, and then her loss to Kaufman decision. I mean, you're not burning down the barn with like crazy action, but she fought.
yeah.
And she went out there, and you knew that you were going to get a brawl every time. She wasn't one that just ran it. She didn't run around the octagon. She gave what she should give, you know. And
It's such a hard part
you
of
know.
the sport, like valuating what contracts should be worth, right? I mean, she was getting 31 and 31. She asked for 100 flat, right? It is hard to say. Like, I mean, 31 and 31 is not a ton of money, right? I mean, $62,000 if you win. That's a nice amount of money if you could fight a couple
Right.
times a year. But we know, if you're listening to the show, you know all the expenses that go into it. You know, taxes, your manager, your training camps, all that. So it's not an inordinate amount of money. But, I mean, $62,000, like, is she directly responsible for generating $62,000 worth of revenue to that event in terms of ticket sales, viewers, merchandise, whatever it may be? It's so hard to say, but I mean, it's hard to say that about almost anybody on the card, right? Like, I'm not trying to pick out Leslie Smith. Like,
Right.
it's hard to say that about anybody on the card, and that's what's so difficult about this sport because, man, what these guys and gals do, I think they should get paid a ton of money. But at the end of the day, you got to say, are they directly generating that amount of revenue for the company to earn that compensation?
Yep.
It's so hard to make that determination.
I just did a quick little search, and so you look back, this is 2012, tough 16 payouts, but just looking at some of the names when you want to compare them to some of the guys and what they were doing at the time. Roy Nelson at the time of that show, $48,000, 24 to show, 24 to win. Matt Mitrione, $12,000. Mike Ricci, $8,000. Colton Smith, $16,000, whoever. Pat Barry, $44,000, 22 to show, 22 to win. Shane Del Rosario, $20,000, he lost. Mike Pyle, $78,000, 39 to show, 39 to win. Dustin Poirier, $34,000, 17 to show, 17 to win. One, you look at how the rate of pay has changed at the time, but when you look at the fighters that are happening, and then you want to put the fact that she was getting 31 and 31, she killed everybody right there.
Right.
And granted, this was, you know, roughly 6 years ago, you know.
But we're not talking about that much inflation and that much.
I mean, that she was doing decently well, like what she was getting, like I can see where she wanted to jump up, but I mean, like, jumping up to 100,000. I mean, Leslie Smith. I mean, I love her to death. But she's not a 50-50 fighter. You know, I mean, it's at least to me, it's
it
not.
sucks to say that, but if you're being honest, right?
Well, just and that's just strictly just looking at the fact of what they've been paying out.
Right.
So when you look at the players that are getting that sort of money, it's hard to put her on that same level. But if it's at a point where, there's should be an equal balance of pay between the females and the men's, that level 50-50 is a top tier male fighter right now.
That's just outside of like title shot range.
Yeah,
basically.
like that's top tier.
Yep.
Like, so whether male or female, if it's a top tier fighter, I get it. That person should be getting that money. I just don't know if she, when it comes to bringing a lot of attention to the sport and bringing a lot of eyeballs, she's not commanding that that same amount.
That's it.
It doesn't mean that she's not worth it.
But that's what's so hard to value about the sport. I mean, it sounds like if you say that, like, you're not trying to value how hard they train. You're not trying to value how hard they fight, how much they care, how much, you know what I mean? You're not valuing that. It's just the bottom line is, are you generating $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 worth of revenue for the company? Because if you're not, then essentially what they're paying you is just charity, right? I mean, if you're not actually generating that much revenue, and I mean, I hate to say it that way because I mean, I guess that's the whole point of all this is they want to get the books open so they can see just how much revenue is being generated, and they can see just how much the TV contracts are worth, and then maybe at that point you can say, they have to be worth this much. So it's just such a hard, tricky thing to do because these pay rates, I think we all want them to be more, but at the end of the day, how many tickets were sold just to watch Leslie Smith? So it's so tough.
Even at 175 when Rousey beat Davis, Rousey got 60 to show, 60 to win, and Davis got paid $24,000 for the loss.
Jeez. Well, I mean, we know Rousey got a lot of money behind the scenes, but that was her.
She did, but
that was her published pay.
Yeah, I mean, that was her published pay. I mean, but that's champ pay, and that's Ronda Rousey at the time, the biggest woman athlete in the sport at the time, and to try to ask for that same sort of money. Granted, and that was 2014, so 3 years. You would think that the pay would come. There's a lot more eyeballs, and a lot of it's sort of at this point now because everybody looks at the valuation of the company, and now they expect everything to be paid out. That same sort of way where in their minds.
Where's my cut of the $4 billion?
Yeah, where's my cut of the $4 billion? And they don't understand that was $4 billion that doesn't exist. Now it's a $4 billion in the hole. So they're going to need to try to get that back before they can start really sharing it, and who knows if it ever gets.
Go holler at Lorenzo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It sucks. I mean, I agree they should be getting paid more, but I like the idea. When we talk about just getting rid of the show and the win. More flat rates because automatically people are going to be getting more money than what they're getting. I
don't disagree with that, man. I think we're getting to a point now where people don't need a win bonus to fight hard.
No.
You know what I mean? They know what's at stake.
They want to be in the UFC, whether or not. So if you're winning or you're losing, if you lose, you're going to be gone. So people are going to be trying to win because they want to stay within the UFC. They want to stay at the top tier. But it's like, stop paying them half of their salary, up the thing. And, I mean, yes, they take an initial hit, but it's like, sorry, that's your loss. I mean, if you want to play and you want to have these fighters, you're going to have to pay them more. But so stop trying to get by paying half of them half of their money.
This worked out crazy good, I think, for the UFC, right? Because because she decided not to fight, now certainly it was in her right to do that.
Yeah.
But now I think you get to even paint her out as more of a malcontent. Like if she goes out there and just smokes Aspen Ladd, who was undefeated, who is a prospect that a lot of people have high stakes or high hopes on, believe will accomplish great things. If Leslie Smith went out there and just absolutely smoked Aspen Ladd in the last fight of her deal, and then you just never offer her another contract, that would probably look pretty bad for the UFC, right? I mean, that would look awfully petty.
I think it would. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I want to. What was she? She's on like 2-fight win streak or something like that.
Yeah, I think this would have been 3 in a row.
Yeah, this would have been 3 in a row. I mean, which would have looked bad. It definitely would have put them in a bad light. Cause I think most people are like, why would you cut somebody on a 3-fight win streak, without having some sort of ulterior motive.
And the way she painted it, which is smart, she said, I'm on a 3-fight win streak in the bantamweight division because she's 3-1 in her last 4, and the only loss was moving up to catchweight to fight Cyborg. Which is, as you pointed out earlier, if anybody says, oh, she was just scared to fight, bruh, she fought Cyborg. If there's anybody to be legit scared of, it's Cyborg.
Yeah. For anybody to say that, it's literally
no disrespect to Aspen Ladd.
No, Aspen Ladd's a good fighter, but it's ridiculous to think somebody to say they're if somebody was scared of taking a fight, they would have been scared taking the Cyborg fight. But you know that was probably a good payday, or it was a great opportunity to because you never know what could happen. But if anything else, I don't know. It just seems a weird precedent that the UFC had set by paying her, showing her win to make her go away. The one person who's been had the squeaky wheel, but then another fighter is willing to go and they only gets half of his show money. It's just so ridiculous.
They got to get the inconsistencies worked out.
It looked so ridiculous, and I don't know what that fighter can do, whether it's a matter of like, no, I showed, so do you then start doing the lawsuits?
Yeah.
Start saying, I showed, I did what I need to do. You're not covering your end,
Because I don't blame her. If you know you're going to get $62K, whether you fight or not, don't fight.
Fuck no, man.
Why would I fight?
Why not?
You're beating 0 at that point.
She got her show and her win.
Leslie did mention something that was funny. So she was pretty pissed off at Aspen. I did think that was just a little bit of misdirected anger. I think she was a little bit frustrated. But she did mention, and I've told you before, I think there's an unwritten rule at weigh-ins. Like if you're going to miss, you better come in at 11 o'clock. I better know that you tried until the very, very end to make weight.
She got denied.
She did. So that was the thing.
So it wasn't like I can get why you'd want to go in early, weigh in if you know that there's possibly you're going to be heavy,
right,
and then expecting you have the rest of the time to do it. And if that's what she went in expecting, all right, let's go in, let's get the get-go, and then let's go back and work for another hour or two if we have to. But then for the commission to stop it, that's out of her control.
Well, and Leslie was frustrated. I think it was just some misdirected anger. I think she was frustrated and she was looking for people to be pissed off at, and so Aspen was an easy target. But yeah, I don't think Aspen missed weight on purpose or was trying to pull any shenanigans. At least in talking to her team, I didn't get the idea that there were any shenanigans going on. Bottom line is she just showed up and she'd been in contact with the doctors all week. She'd been on her period, and they were like, hey, listen, we don't need you to continue cutting at this point. So, listen, it's going to be interesting. This story is definitely not over with Leslie Smith. It made for an interesting week. I do, man. There are some things that I really support with the organizational efforts, because I do think there's some things that fighters need a seat at the table, man. They need to at least be able to discuss. I don't know if a union or an association or any of it is 100% totally right, but they do need to have some type of voice where they can address some of these things.
Yeah.
The other big one that I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, of course, we can talk about the fights, but it's been a couple days. Kevin Lee looked fantastic. Survived that crazy trouble from the overhead kick to the head that had him on nearly broken legs out there. But Merab Dvalishvili and the heartbreaking after the bell submission loss to Ricky Simon. I guess I just want to say that I got to be honest with you. It's almost a week later, and I still don't know if the right decision was made. But I want people to know that, man, this was a point of contention on the ground after the fight. I'm talking about everybody on this card, camps, coaches, referees, fighters, people that were involved in this fight, people that weren't involved in this fight, man. Everybody was debating this damn thing back and forth. And I got to be honest, man, I heard every take there while I was on the ground. I've gone back and watched it since. I've seen some footage that hasn't even been seen out there by the public eye because our man that works at the Pepsi manufacturing plant happened to be in the building with a camera rolling. They give him nice access.
God, Pepsi, you're great.
They get great access. I happen to see a little bit of Fiasco Jones footage that hasn't even been seen by the public yet. It may never get seen by the public. And I still don't know. I mean, I still feel like Merab definitely went out at somewhere along the lines. Like there's a couple times where, especially like his arms, they're not even flat. They're just like down by his side. They're not pushing at anything. Mark Goddard has come out and said it. He told me too. He's like, he thinks a lot of the leg pumping that was going on was kind of basically involuntary muscle movement by the brain as it's going on there. But I got to be honest, I still don't know if the right call was made or not.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I think he probably trained that way and figured out a way that if he could keep his body moving by doing that, he was keeping blood flowing. And so that's why I think he didn't initially go out. And then once there was the final release, there was probably a rush of blood that went back to his head. So there was probably a second reset where his mind went, and then he snapped back out of it. But my whole thinking at the time, and I've heard, John say it after it, the fact that he didn't go completely flat. He was moving. The ref never stopped it, and in my mind, when it was done, I thought he made it to the bell. I thought he had won.
He had gutted it out, and somehow survived.
And then there was that moment when he got let go that he went kind of flat for a second, but it's like that was at the point where if he was out and he was just involuntarily moving his legs, why didn't his legs keep going?
Right.
At that point, if they were just on autopilot and going, why did they stop all of a sudden when the fighter stopped? He was still cognizant enough that he realized, I think he was doing his mechanism that allowed his body to keep some sort of blood flow going throughout the body. And when the guy let go, that I think it was just that initial, he probably just shut down. He stopped moving his legs of his own account, and that probably also shut off what was working, the autopilot that was keeping him awake. Because he responded when he had to. But yes, I saw the part where his arms went down, and yes, it did look like he was out. He wasn't doing, but at the point his legs were still moving. So in my mind, watching it, I thought he was still working. But at that point, it almost seemed to me like his body was compartmentalizing and reserving it for the things that needed to be working. Like, why do I need to use my arms right now? Like he was, granted,
his
he was
sense of hearing was gone at that point.
Yeah,
his sense of smell was gone.
Only two.
He had no short-term memories at all.
But his legs were working, and there was a little trickle of blood that was going to the brain.
Digestion had stopped.
Something along those lines, But I don't know. After hearing it, and I guess I made myself sort of agree with what everybody was saying. I was like, okay, that made sense, Got to the end of the fight, and he wasn't able to continue. He looked like he went out. So then the ref, after the fact, changed it. But I was like, I didn't like the fact that this whole after the bell decisions being made, because it just, I don't know. It just didn't feel right. So, who am I to tell the guy that was one of the guys that helped make the rules for MMA, and here when McCarthy's, saying it, and he's blaming the fact that
John McCarthy stood up.
That the ref was young, and, didn't know what he was looking for. But, so if it's just going by the fact that his arm goes flat, why don't they then stop a lot of fights sooner and just say, all right, well, his arms went flat. Obviously, he was done. I think if that happened and they use that for their basis, there would be a lot more pissed off people and a lot more wrong calls if that was what they were going off. The fact that when he was asked to whether he was all right, he gave hand gesture.
Up, yeah.
He was moving his body. He was fighting it. And only for that last, second or two right before the bell, you see his arms go flat, but his legs are still going. And then after the bell, the guy gets up, and then you kind of see him, I think it was just pure exhaustion. His body gave out for a second, and he probably did pass out from exhaustion, but it doesn't mean that he fully went out because of.
I think he was with it for a little bit right after the bell, so that's what's so weird. Okay, so
I think it was probably a rush of blood back to his fucking brain.
I agree,
and it just shut it down again.
We could continue debating. I still don't. All right, but here's two things. First, I want to say, Mark Goddard, and granted, I like the guy. I've had great discussions with him. He's not like my boy or anything, but I enjoy speaking MMA with him. There's no question about it. I do hate the fact that he's been online, trying to openly engage and discuss this with fans, because he's of the belief that officials should be more out there. They should be talking. They should be willing to discuss the reasons for the decisions they made. And I agree. I hate the fact that they hide and we never hear from him. So I love the fact that he's out there. But then everybody on social media is you're a cheater. You're a liar. You probably gambled money on this. You're in so I hate that. I hate that you come out and you try to engage the public and educate, and they talk shit about you. So I do hate that. The other thing is, how come there were no 10-8s in the third round? If we're sitting here debating over whether or not that guy is dead,
right.
You know what I mean? Literally, people are going I think he's dying right now.
Right.
Because if there were 10-8s, at least the damn fight would have been a draw. And if it was a draw, that's one of those rare situations where I think you go, I'll take it. A draw, I'll take it. No problem for anybody involved. But I mean, I know that the fight wasn't really a 10-8 round up to that point. I get it. Normally you think 10-8 is like a really long, one-sided beatdown. But if a dude is, if people watching are saying, is that guy dying, maybe that's worth a 10-8. Maybe that's worth a 10-8.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe I don't
seems
think
like a pretty good
I don't think that's
qualifying.
necessarily written in the rules.
Yeah.
Like, if death appears an option, you can score a 10-8.
You can score at 10-8. If he literally is just pulled back from the brink of death, you could probably give him a 10-8.
All right, so that'll wrap up UFC Fight Night 128. Again, apologies that I did not get the and a half episode in, but I gave it a shot. You heard proof.
You gave it your Marab. You gave it to the end.
I gave it all the way to the end. All right, listen.
all the way to the end.
We got right back to work this week. We are not up in the Chicago area for Bellator, but that doesn't mean that we're just chilling down here in Las Vegas. No, sir. In fact, you and I earlier today got a chance to go speak to Brian Ortega. T-City, of course, is in town. He's doing some promotion because tickets are going on sale for UFC 226 to the general public tomorrow. So he did the full media rounds. In fact, he's going to be at the Vegas Golden Knights game tonight as well. The Vegas Golden Knights in the second round of the NHL playoffs going up against the San Jose Sharks. I know we got to wrap up so we can go watch us a little hockey. I mean, not that we're the biggest hockey fans in the world, but you got to support the home team, right?
You got to support them.
Although I did learn something about you recently. You are a former Columbus Blue Jackets season ticket holder.
Yeah. Well, it was like the very first season when I used to do computer work and had money.
I was gonna say
I was a single guy that had money, so yeah, I used to get tickets.
I had the wrong impression of your income, man.
Well, I mean, they were not. I mean, they were not like crazy. I mean, it was I guess I didn't like buy a PSL. I just bought tickets to every game.
Right.
So I guess it wasn't really a season ticket. I just went to games.
Oh.
So no, I wasn't like season. I just went.
Like balling out.
Well, I mean, they were.
I mean, they're not cheap.
No, I mean, because like when I'd go by myself a lot of times. So I'd buy like the $200 tickets. I'd be right fucking down in the front,
Gangster.
like hitting on the glass and shit. But I mean, like you can do that when you don't have a fucking girlfriend and you're just like balling or whatever. But
the days with no girls.
Days when I had money. Days I had money.
I remember.
But I was young. I was a young kid, man. But I was doing computer work, man. I could do no wrong, man. I was doing really well for myself back.
I mean, not that MMA journalism doesn't.
No,
pay
I mean,
really
I mean,
well.
if there was anything second to computer and IT work, it's MMA journalism for sure.
Totally.
So yeah, when the Blue Jackets played, it was good to be able to see that, and I was definitely rooting for them, and unfortunately did not make it, but that was my first. And this is coming from a town where we live and breathe Buckeyes, so it's like football. And even when it's about football, even though we have the Browns in town, we have we're up north, and down south we had the Bengals. The Buckeyes always ruled the roost, So for me, hockey was one of those first sports. Even though we had the Columbus Crew, so I'd start getting a little bit of watching soccer, but the Columbus Crew was my first sort of just. The Blue Jackets was my first endeavor to kind of watch hockey. So it was good to see them still almost, they made it to the playoffs, but then unfortunately didn't. So now
being
able to kind of
your
switch.
lines to the Vegas Golden Knights.
I just jumped that bandwagon off that one right onto another one, But no, it's good. I mean, like, I'm super happy and excited for these guys. I mean, like, there's some people, and I look at some of the footage of watching fans at the Vegas Knights, man, these people are fanatic, and people were freaking worried that there wouldn't be a home base for these guys. If those people now, I'm sure they're like literally eating their words because the fan base is so ridiculous here. I mean, now I feel like I'm behind the gun. I want to go watch a game, but I feel like I don't know any of the chants. I don't know any of the common phrases and everything that everybody sings. I don't have a Knights outfit to wear, because I'd want to go and be all Comic-Con'd out. I'd want to be all decked out and shit. But
like a Boba Fett helmet or something.
They do look like some fucking Boba Fett helmets. Would that be weird just to like combine all my nerd love and just go with Star Wars and be like, this is right? I'm good? Am I good?
Paint your Boba Fett helmet black and gold.
Like, yeah.
All right.
But no, yeah, we're excited for that. So, yeah, be good to see it. But no, but it was cool pulling into the UFC headquarters today and then seeing that. Must have been today, because when everybody I asked at the UFC, half of them didn't even know that it was out there. But also, like,
it must be, because it caught my attention
I saw
as soon
them.
as I pulled in.
Same way. And actually, the security guy at the front pointed out, he's like, "Oh, you see our Golden Knights flag?"
That's funny.
And then I saw some other UFC staffers put it on their social media today, so it had to be.
It had to have been today.
Had to be like this week. Had
Yeah.
to be. So it's cool. It's cool to see. So good for them. I mean, if it's setting a precedent, I guess that means in 2020 you'll see a Raiders flag there as well.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, all that to say that we spoke to Brian Ortega. So that's the excellent radio work that we do. Podcast extraordinaires. That is a massively beautiful setup for this audio with Brian Ortega.
I wanted to talk to you since New York. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. Starting out a couple of days before we saw you, when we found out that you were willing to step up on short notice and fight Habib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
And it kind of came out of left field. But then as soon as I think fans and us started thinking about it, it was like, that would have been a pretty good fight. So talk to me about why you were willing to take a risk like that when you've been kind of working towards the goal that you're at, and then you were willing to step out and take that.
Well, the thing is, for some reason, the short notice fights seem to bring out the best of me. And when I look at Khabib, I just look at the style. And I go, man, this guy's a top wrestler, and I'm a bottom jiu-jitsu guy. And when I really thought about it, I took the fight no matter what. But when I actually, when you make a decision, you don't fully think through it.
Yes.
When I started finally thinking through it, I was like, I got excited. I was like, because not too many people present a good ground game from the bottom. They either survive a little bit and it's kind of boring, but not too many people are attacking from the bottom, hurting with elbows, or they just don't bring that kind of game because it takes a long time to develop. Versus me, I grew up in that situation where I was always the bottom guy, always getting beat up by all these guys, so I had to learn how to adapt my game to that. And then when you look at him, he's been a wrestler his whole life. So it's like, I've been a bottom guy my whole life, you've been a wrestler your whole life, you're undefeated, I'm undefeated. I'm not a small featherweight, so let's do it. I was curious to see what was going to happen.
Well, I wonder, like you said, because it wasn't a fight that I don't think anybody ever thought of. And then once we thought about it, like you, I think we all got excited too. So I wonder, is that now something that's like, definitely on your radar?
It's on my radar. I have a big fight right now, but that one for sure it's on the radar. I have to be successful July 7th, then I can hopefully make that happen after.
I want to ask you about everything else that kind of happened in New York. I mean, you got kind of a front row seat for everything that unfolded. Here you are, this breath of fresh air, bringing this message of positivity and hope and love and all this good stuff, right? And then you get a front row seat for everything that unfolds with the opposite of that, chaos and madness and everything. What was going through your mind as you saw this kind of all play out in New York?
I was watching it the same time you guys were watching it. I got on my phone and I was like, Connor did what? I was like, wait a minute. And then you're like trying to find different little videos, right? Because there's only so many clips and you're trying to find out the whole story. And then I started talking to people. I'm like, yo, what happened? And they started telling me what went down and this and that. And I was like, I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. Yeah, wasn't my problem. It sucks that some fighters didn't get to fight because of it. But yeah, I don't really want to word it out because I don't want to, stir the pot up.
Well, I don't want to stir the pot, but I mean, is it tough? Because it feels like everybody's trying to find a direction in the sport, right? I mean, Connor's unquestionably the biggest star in the sport, but I think everybody steps back and goes, that was ridiculous. And then we got people like you, Rose Namajunas gets a lot of credit for her positivity as well. I just wonder, do you feel like you can be that big of a superstar, that successful, and keep this positive mindset and keep this positive attitude, or do you see when somebody's kind of playing the villain role and they're the star, do you think maybe I'm making the wrong decisions?
No, there's only one Connor. Everyone who's tried to be like Connor, you can tell they're just fronting. You can see by the way they go in there. You're like, come on, shut up. But for me, I'm just me. That's what I realize the best thing could be is when I talk to people, they're like, especially getting in the sport, they were like, oh, you got to be a character, you got to be this. And then my coach told me, I don't know if I can cuss or not, but he goes, fuck that. He's like, just be you, bro. He goes, you don't have to lie on the thing, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to remember about something you made up before. He goes, just be you, and you can't go wrong with being you. So that's what we did, and I'm happy I stuck to it, man, because I'm just me. If I ever get pissed off, I'm legitly pissed off. So far, it hasn't happened.
Very nice. Now you got this fight with Max Holloway. I think people are pretty excited about it. I don't imagine there'll be a lot of trash talk. Any of that doesn't seem necessary. But, I mean, two young guys in the sport, two of the best in the game. I mean, How excited are you about this matchup?
I'm ready. It's how can I say it, man? This is something that for the longest time was just a vision, you know, and then now it's actually a plan. We're actually starting training camp for it, and it's still surreal. It's like, holy shit, I got the shot. It's like, all right. And then I was nervous because it was like, man, am I going to be able to fight Frankie on 3 weeks' notice to get this shot, to steal it away? And I'm happy that the outcome was what it was. And now we get to fight. So it's how many fighters could say that they got to the chance there, you know? Especially coming up from where I came from. Something bad could happen after this fight and never fight again, and I can just say, you know what? I can tell people at least, hey, I went all the way undefeated to the belt, so I'm already winning. You know, the belt is just something extra.
How concerned were you with Max possibly taking that fight and not being able to maybe fight in July if something happened?
I wasn't concerned because I was just like, he's gonna have to fight me no matter what. Now it's just a matter of how much off time do I have. And if he did become champion, then you're like, I still got a guaranteed title fight. Now it's just a matter of who is it going to be against. So I wasn't too concerned about it. I was a little upset that, because I was like, his foot's hurt. He's not going to take it. And then he took it, and I was like, oh, man. I was like, but I can't hate on it, you know? I was like, me and you were willing to do the same thing that where a lot of other fighters were not. So I tilt my hat to him on that, because for anyone to step up, when you hear Khabib, you're like, I need a training camp. And then they gave us 6 days. And we weren't even training. So it was like, he was down, I was down. Because he's champ, Dana White did tell me he has priority, obviously. And he was just waiting to hear his call back. And he took it, and, you know, the commission pulled him off from, I guess he was declared unfit to fight. And I was in New York waiting for that situation. And I was not eating on purpose, you know. I was putting things, I was eating pizza, but I wasn't. And then, but Thursday night came, and I was like, I'm not getting it. I was like, this guy's making weight tonight. So then I went to Junior's, and I had some some cheesecake, and I kind of like ate my frustrations away. And then the morning they called, I was like, he didn't make weight. I was like, no. I was like, oh well.
If you hadn't eaten, would you have taken it on a day?
Well, they didn't call me, but I was gonna reach out, but then they realized you have like an hour and a half to make weight, and for me it was like, cut 15 pounds in an hour and a half I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, it just wasn't gonna happen, especially after that cheesesteak or that cheesecake.
How was the cheesecake?
It was good. I had the strawberry one, I had the regular one, I had the blueberry one. I heard it's the best in New York, so I was like, I can't just have one. I gotta try all the flavors.
Which one was the best one of the three?
To me, I love the strawberry one. Yeah, the strawberry one just was different. I always loved strawberry cheesecake growing up, and when I tried it over there, I was like, damn, now I miss it.
Does that say something about how great this fight is, though? I mean, in this era of it seems like everybody's positioning themselves and trying to figure out which is the right financial fight, which is the right, you know. You two guys were both willing to say, I don't care, I'll take on the guy that the boogeyman that everybody's afraid of.
Yeah.
You think that says something for how big this fight is going to be? That you two guys are guys like that?
Boy, I always say it this way. You have two guys that are down to fight. He's not a point scorer, I'm not a point scorer. We want to get in there, and at the end of the day, we want to finish each other, which means we got to hurt each other. And for me, that makes the best kind of fights. When you got two guys who really are going for it. This guy is a champ, and he still goes for it. That says something a lot, because you see a lot of guys, they earn their way to the championship, and then they play it safe to keep it. He's going all in. I'm all in. I've always been all in. If I ever become champ, I'm still going to be all in. So I just think that makes a great chemistry for crazy fights. And that's hopefully what we can give the fans July 7th.
So now you do get a long training camp for this fight.
Yeah.
You get some time to study Max. What do you think, just initial thoughts, what do you think are some of his strengths and maybe some of his weaknesses?
Well, his strength is his striking and his wrestling defense. And his weakness is the ground. You know, he's got good jiu-jitsu, but I feel like I have something different when it comes to the ground. And we just have to make a training camp based on all his strengths and his weaknesses and how we're going to make it happen during the fight, because we have 25 minutes in there, you know, so we got some time. It's not like we got 3 rounds. We got 25 minutes of fighting, and just got to seize the right opportunity.
Brian, based on what you just said, you think his weakness is the ground. What did you think was going to happen if he did make it to the Khabib fight?
That was my concern. Is his wrestling defense good enough? Because if he could stop Khabib's takedowns, I feel he would have got the better of Khabib on the stand-up. He's a big boy too. So it's not like, oh, everyone looks at featherweight. No, if you would have seen them in the cage, you would go, damn, he's a featherweight. It would have just made you question it, because he's a big boy. But the real question is with anyone who fights Khabib. If he gets you on the ground, what are you going to do? And so far, he's been able to get everyone on the ground and just destroy them.
For that reason, were you a little worried that hey, I mean, this could go bad for Max, and when it goes bad against Khabib, it looks really bad, and so that would take away from you know, some of the maybe some of the interest in our title fight, because this guy's been unbeatable, and then if Khabib's in, then will people still be tuned into the fight?
I thought about it, but then I was gonna say, you could always come back and say he took it on 6 days' notice, you know. So it wouldn't be that bad. I feel people would, even if he lost, people would have credited him like, yo, you're down to stepping on 6 days' notice to fight a guy who's heavier than you in a different weight class. So I feel like he would have got more credit than discredit, and it still would have been a good build-up for the fight, you know, because he's just down.
You've been so effective on, you know, short notice fights. What's the feeling like right now, knowing you've got, you know, what might seem like forever laying out in front of you before this fight? I mean, do you have to approach things differently? What's the plan? Are you concerned with overtraining or anything?
Honestly, my life has been crazy this last year. This is going to be my 4th fight in less than 1 year, which means I haven't had a life in a year. I've just been training camp. I took 1 vacation, and then during that vacation, I got called to take the fight against Cubs, so I had to come back. So I'm just used to it. That's why, and I feel it's good, because by the time I stepped in with Frankie, when I stepped in the arena, I was calm, man. I had my headphones, I was singing, I was dancing. It didn't feel like before, where I was fighting once or twice a year, where it's like the jitters feel new again. It was like, hey, Brian, welcome back to the office. I've been seeing the staff so much lately. It's like, yo, what's up, guys? Good to see you again. Tonight I'm fighting, and then maybe 2 weeks from now, I'm going to see you at the fight. It's just, you know, for pleasure. But I've gotten used to the atmosphere, which I feel is good, because once I get used to the atmosphere, I'm comfortable. And the more comfortable I become, the more relaxed I get in there. And when I'm relaxed and I'm in there, you see these different sides of me that only happen when I'm in training camp. That people are like, how come you don't bring that out to the fight? It's because I'm relaxed in training camp, and I'm not that relaxed when you're in there. It's hard to be relaxed when it's got lights, camera, action, a guy trying to punch you in the face for real, as hard as he can, and the arena filled up screaming. It's not the easiest thing to relax in, you know, but lately I've been relaxing in it, and it's kind of weird.
How about just personally? I mean, you strike me as a guy that would rather be just sitting outside in SoCal, you know, playing some dominoes with your boys or whatever. Instead, you're having to travel around and do all these media responsibilities. I mean, but you know, if you get that title, obviously this is a taste of the champ life. I mean, personally, do you find it distracting, fulfilling? Are you enjoying it? What do you think?
It's a love-hate.
You know, when you get the belt, are you going to be as active as you've been? Because, you know, like you said, you've been busy, and I think that serves to your advantage. Maybe even when you fought Frankie, I mean, he was not that active, and it might have been detrimental to him.
No, I feel I have a couple goals that I still have left, and I'm willing to keep working and pay the price for it. And if I become successful July 7th, I have plans to keep fighting till summer of 2019. I want to set some things up, couple fights that I think they would challenge me, and they would be great for my career. And yeah, I'm not gonna stop till hopefully I get these things.
You willing to share those goals right now?
Not yet. I'd rather just let you guys see it as it unfolds, if it unfolds, you know? Because you can always paint the perfect picture, and then it doesn't happen, and it just sets you back a little bit. So for me, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to curse it. I have the vision. I'm training hard, and now I just got to make it happen, which is the hardest part.
I was going to say, when you say till summer 2019, though, are you saying and then that would be it, or that's just where the goals stop right now?
Well, that's as far as the vision gets right now. That's as far as it gets. Because I don't see it getting any bigger than that by 2019. So we'll see what happens, yeah.
Justin Gaethje fought, and he was coming off the first loss of his career. And one thing that he was talking about was he actually said, if I would give young kids advice to get their first loss out of the way, just get it out of the way, so that way you don't got to talk about it and it doesn't hang over your head that you got an undefeated record. He's a guy who's undefeated. Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
I do. Sometimes I felt like the pressure would be gone if I just got it out the way. If I lost and the fans talked whatever they had to talk, made the crazy memes, you know, and it just, I went through that phase, and now I know what it's like, you know. But at the same time, I lost so many other things in my life where it doesn't. That's why I feel like I don't care about a loss, and that's why I feel like I keep winning, just because I don't care about it. You see me down 2 rounds, I just keep fighting because I love it, and I want to finish you. I'm in your face. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of things in life that to me are far much worse than a little record. Just says, and won. You know, it just means you lost a fight, but life in general, you know, I lost so much other things that I don't really care for it.
So T-City, Brian Ortega, man, I love talking with that kid. There's no trash talk in it. He keeps it real, but I do love the message, and I love the fight. And, man, for all the things that could have happened with him and Khabib Nurmagomedov, which may still happen, I do love that fight. I'm not going to lie. It's so weird. It's a fight I never thought about for 1 second. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, yes, I got to have that fight. But we get him and Max Holloway first. And, man, tough not to cheer for Max Holloway, too. My heart's going to be torn when those two guys step in the cage, because those are two guys that I just don't know how you don't cheer for both of them, man.
Yeah.
They're monster fighters, and they're great dudes. So I'm gonna be torn on that one. And UFC 226, it's just looking stacked. Let me knock on some wood right now so I don't mess that one up. Pray to the MMA guys that they don't attack that card, so because it is looking stacked. You know what else is looking stacked? Cold coffee. When you get your monthly box in from Dollar Shave Club.
Mm-hmm.
Dollar Shave Club. I'm telling you, I love that they're back sponsoring the show this week because I'm hooked. DollarShaveClub.com. When you're a member, I'm telling you, the products that you get are amazing top to bottom. When I say Dollar Shave Club, I know the first thing that pops in your head is an amazing, affordable shave, but I'm about to blow your mind because there's way more than that. It's more than just razors. Dollar Shave Club, first of all, is better than shopping in a store, but they deliver everything you need to look, feel, and smell your best. And, you know, we all need some help with that from time to time.
I do. I certainly do.
Even when you're old and married like me and ain't got nobody to impress, you still want to look and smell and feel your best. They got shampoo, body wash, toothpaste. They got all that. But more importantly, they got the executive razor, man. 6 blades. Gives you just the absolute best shave I've ever had. You use that Dr. Carver shave butter. It helps the razor gently glide across your skin. You have to experience it. And another must-have experience is just how the damn thing comes to you. The way they deliver everything to you. You ain't got to go to the store no more. I'm lazy. I don't like going to the store.
That's true.
It's
too damn hot nowadays.
It's too damn hot to get out. It's only April. It's already too damn hot. I don't want to get out. I want it to come right to my door, and that's what's up. No more trips to the store, just wandering the aisles, hunting for razors, shampoo, toothpaste, then having to go pay at the cashier, scanning and bagging your own stuff. They got you doing all that. I don't want to do none of that. Dollar Shave Club solves it all.
For a mind-blowing experience, join Dollar Shave Club today. And just for $5, with free shipping, you'll get the 6-blade executive razor John was just talking about, plus trial sizes of shave butter. That's good shit. Body cleanser, and 1 wipe Charlie's. Everybody likes a good wipe down there, you know what I'm saying?
You got to clean it up sometimes.
You got to clean it up.
Hopefully.
Then keep the blades coming for a few bucks more per month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/road. That's ROAD if you degenerates don't know how to spell road. That's dollarshaveclub.com/road.
do it. Bellator 198 this weekend. You and I are not up there, but we do have Matt Erickson, who is a Chicago area resident. He's been covering things already all week long. And Mr. Dan Stupp is going to make a surprise appearance over there.
Mm-hmm.
He's up there visiting his girl. He's all engaged now. The man's in love.
He's in love.
Not working very much anymore. Just taking as much
like,
time off as
he's like,
he
I'm
can.
staying with the girl. I'm walking dogs.
Dan Stupp has worked like 3 days this year. I'm just saying.
But he's been working on getting that girl.
Been working.
He did it.
He did it. He's engaged now. So he's up in the Chicago area visiting where his girl is. And then he's going to be helping out on fight night, I understand. But, things do happen. We'll see if that happens. Dave Mandel, actually, is going to be shooting photographs for us that night as well.
Oh, very
so,
cool.
Yeah, get to bring them
It's
back
a
in.
lovely 54 degrees in Chicago right now. They've been having some rain and gray. So I will take our weather over that.
Yes.
You can take your 50s up there, Chicago. And I hope there's some good fights, but we'll stay out here. We'll enjoy our time out here.
Damn right. Fedor Emelianenko versus Frank Mir in the main event. Two guys, of course, we've been covering for a long, long time.
That'll be a good one. I hope that's a good one.
I do too. I hope it's a good fight. I
hope
mean,
it's a
there's
good
no
one.
questions. They're both up there. I mean, the good thing is the heavyweight division is one of those divisions where you kind of last longer and the power stays there. And, of course, both those guys have good grappling as well, so those techniques stay there. I think this could be a lot of fun on paper. I'm leaning towards Frank Mir. I mean, I feel like Fedor's
Leaning?
got,
Just leaning?
yeah, I mean, there's question marks around both guys, right?
True.
I mean, when you start talking about, first of all, the heavyweight division, I don't think you can guarantee anything at any point, right? I mean, because that's just the nature of the heavyweight division. You can't even guarantee that you'll be able to speak about them if you have the tart peach Kolsch.
Tart Pete, you got one of them fishes running
go
down
the
your
wrong
throat.
way. But yeah, I mean, listen, Frank Mir hasn't had a victory since 2015. Fedor Emelianenko, I mean, he's over 40 at this point. He hasn't had a victory since 2015 either, for that matter. Now that I pull up the record, so yeah, I mean, question marks around both guys. I think.
I guess so. When you put it like that, I guess so. I guess there are question marks, but man, I just see Frank as being the younger, quicker, fighter. In some of the last Fedor fights have just been ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. In my mind, I just see Frank going out there and just starching him. I mean, I just think he's going to be too much. And the only thing that worried me is watching the interview that our own Matt Erickson did the other day, with Frank, sort of just questioning, what his possible performance and having, like, nerves kind of come back in. It just seemed less sure of himself. And maybe that's just that byproduct of being away for a couple years. It's like if you ever loved, like, riding roller coasters. I love roller coasters. I love the adrenaline rush. But if you don't ride that fast, big, tall ride for a while and you go back to the amusement
You get
park,
nervous when you're standing
you
in line.
get nervous as fuck.
What a funny
sitting in the
comparison,
line.
man. I had not thought about it. You're so right, though.
You get so nervous, but then once you get in there, you're like, oh, okay, this is great. Now, granted, riding a roller coaster and finding another person
It's
is
just the same. It's just the same.
It's totally the same. But I just feel like maybe that's what it is for him. He's having those sitting in line nerves, whereas once he gets back in there and takes a punch, gives a punch, it'll all come right back. And then I think when it gets to that point, I just feel that he has much more weapons that are currently sharper than what Fedor, while Fedor still always can catch him with a kick to his head or a big overhand punch. I mean, that's always there, but I think Frank's smart enough and has good enough boxing that he can negate that sort of stuff, and then just needs to grab a hold of him. And I think he has good enough striking on his own. Hopefully he just doesn't try to keep it strictly as a boxing match. But what got me about this one initially, I know for a while there, Frank was very heavy going into this, and then turned it around really quickly recently, and now is on weight. Everything looks good. I just hope that it's all good, everything's good, weight's good, and no steps were taken to speed the process that come back and bite him in the ass later on is one of my only fears. I saw some pics. He looked really ripped. He looked really good, and I just hope that that's a lot of hard work and not taking shortcuts. That somebody that's
not
been
throwing
out of the
shade,
game.
but this is
No,
just
I'm
the
not
world
throwing
we
shade.
live in, right?
I'm just
the world we live in.
And he looked great, and that could just be my skeptic
He definitely
side.
looks bigger than Fedor, man.
He looks stronger. I think he's going to be quicker, and I think he is just literally going to outgun Fedor. I just don't see Fedor having. I think with good reason, Mir is a very good candidate to win this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think this fight, we're gonna see how sharp he actually looks, and I expect him to come in and just, I don't know, I could be wrong. I just expect him to bulldoze over him. I don't think Fedor is anything that can stop Frank right now.
So if I'm reading you right, if you were in Frank's corner just before the fight begins, your advice would be, hey, bro, just throw your hands up and go,
right? All together in the room. I'm like, "Ee!" I would actually have him stand on the couch, like in the or a chair, close his eyes, and like jump off the chair, get that little adrenaline rush, and get it over with, and maybe smack him in the face a couple of times, just to get that shock value into his system. Because if he's ready to go and he can shake whatever sort of weird doubt or nervousness is in his head. That's the only thing I could see playing. If he's giving, Fedor deserves all the respect in the world. If he goes in there too respectful of Fedor and allows himself to sort of just slow play this, he needs to be ready to go. If he comes in and overwhelms Fedor right from the get-go, Fedor's he slow rolls. He's like a fucking huge tree trunk that just takes damage and takes damage. But if you slow play that damage, he's going to make it all the way through the end.
Yep.
You have to just overwhelm him and find a way to tire him out. And I think the only way he's going to do it is just to bulldoze him, come at him striking, and get him down and work him from the ground. And if he gets him to the ground, Frank has got to be one of the most dangerous heavyweights that still is out there when it comes to getting guy on the ground. And it's not just it's not even the ground and pound.
Yeah.
It's his jiu-jitsu. It's
incredible.
just sick.
Yep. It's dangerous.
So I don't know.
I'll be watching, that's for sure. I'm interested. The rest of the card, listen, they set this one up a little bit thin. I'm not going to lie. Sam Cecilia is a guy that just a personal as a dude. He's a fun guy to hang out with and talk to. So certainly wish him the best. I will say Rafael Lovato, that dude is an animal. I think, kudos to Gerald Harris for coming back from retirement. Gerald Harris, a funny guy and a good dude as well. But he's facing a monster in Lovato. That guy is worth watching if you haven't seen him fight before. There's some real upside there. Neiman Gracie undefeated as well. And, of course, I guess the one that most people will be paying attention to, or at least if you listen to him, most people are going to be paying attention to it, the debut of Dylan Dennis. Finally getting to see that. We'll see if that draws the numbers. It certainly draws the internet traffic, and most people just hating on the grappling partner and trainer of Conor McGregor, but some of the showman has definitely worn off on Dylan Dennis. Brian Ortega may not be a huge fan of it, but Dylan Dennis has got it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Are you fired up for that one? Though? Are you kind of hoping are you on the inside just hoping the guy gets wrecked? Just
I think it is always a little bit annoying sometimes when you don't really know somebody. And they talk so much. It's like, please show me something. The guy has definitely excelled in other areas of martial arts. But I don't know. But I don't.
You like to see people get in there and do it before you.
Yeah, get it. Yeah, earn the bravado.
Right.
Before because you never know. But who knows? He's coming from a good camp, and they're throwing him a guy that's 2-3 that. Sure, dog can't even find an image for him, so that's must be a sign of.
That tells you something right there.
They
got images for a lot of people.
A lot of people, and they don't have one for him. And he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought once earlier this year, was submitted. Okay, so apparently he does not do well with guys on the ground, so that certainly probably plays. And
lost his 2 fights by first round submission. You don't think that was a coincidence?
Maybe.
I was wondering in that position. You're like, do you just not care? You know why they're calling you. You lost your last 2 by first round submission. Now they're putting you up against the vaunted grappler making his debut. You know why you're there, right?
Yeah.
Do you get disrespected? Do you get pissed off? Or do you just go, well, whatever, I'm on TV?
Yeah, you're probably like, yeah, I'm going to be on TV and I'm going to get another payday fighting. This is only mean, so July 2017, dude hasn't fought in almost a year. So he's probably happy just to be fighting at this point. He probably thought about stepping away, or maybe sort of was stepping away. So he's probably happy he's getting the paycheck. He's probably happy. And who knows? He could also get a lot of pop if he shuts down a hype train of something coming in there. So that could be very exciting for him too. So,
all right,
go Kyle, go.
UFC's debut in Chile has a new main event. Damian Maia steps in for Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's now Damian Maia versus Kamaru Usman in the
Chile.
main event there. I do like this fight. I mean, there weren't a lot of fights available for Usman. I like the Ponzinibbio fight better. Maia, after his last outing, I was a little concerned for him. I mean, that was not fun to watch, him and Colby Covington last October. But that's been 6 months. I mean, plenty of time for him to shake off any of the damage he received in that fight, no question about it. And, Kamaru Usman, not to say that his striking's not good. I mean, it is good. He's got good striking as well, but we think of him more as a grappler and a top game guy. So I think, if Maia is going to step in on short notice against any of the guys that are top ranked in the welterweight division right now, I think Usman's not a bad guy to do against, even though you are talking about kind of a younger, guy in the rise versus you that's falling back. Doesn't sound like for the time being we're going to get another co-main event. Of course, we lost Volkan Ozdemir versus Shogun Rua. That was moved to Germany. Doesn't sound like that card is going to get anything else. Maybe they'll scramble and put something else on there. But I like the fight. I will say, man, the card, I mean, definitely for the market it makes sense with a lot of the fighters. A lot of Spanish-speaking fighters on there.
Yeah.
Got to say, and I don't want to take this lightly, but that Ray Borg Brandon Moreno fight, you got to think that's probably getting rescheduled again. I mean, Ray Borg's, baby child is having brain surgeries now.
He can't. I'm really surprised that it hasn't already.
I mean, like if I'm advising him, I'm just saying, bro, pull out now. I mean, I don't know how good you think things are going to get in the next couple of weeks, but I mean, maybe you need the paycheck. But yeah, man, I can't imagine trying to train for a fight with that going on too. So that's another really good fight that's probably going to be pulled off that card. So kind of ashamed on there. We were kind of.
It is a month away. I mean, it depends, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to think that could happen while his baby's still literally in
surgery, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
just happened. So I think it came through, and it was a good surgery. But you figure there's got to be
but you
time
saw
in the hotel.
The second surgery has already been done.
I thought he just didn't.
Okay, did he? I didn't see it.
I thought maybe I saw something.
I didn't see it. We've been busy today, so I didn't see that. That's good to hear that the second surgery was also a success. Yeah, it's funny though because this is a card that our bosses at USA Today have said you need to skip, guys. You of course will be heading down to Brazil. I'll be heading out to Liverpool, so we're covering both those cards, but we're not covering this one. And I will say, as good of a month as we had in April with traffic-wise and everything, I was going to hit them up. Not
as of 8 hours ago, he said, unfortunately, Anthony needs to go back in the surgery.
Okay, so we don't have the update on the second surgery yet as we're sitting here.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just can't imagine how you could be practicing. But so I was going to go to our bosses and say, listen, April's been a pretty strong month for us. What do you say about reconsidering this card? I can get down there for not that much money, and then the card took a hit in both the main and co-main event, and it looks like this will be one of those rare cards that we won't have anybody at, which I'm kind of disappointed in.
But I get it. But yeah, I mean, boo.
Yeah, I was kind of reviewing it one more time. It's not. It's like, here's the thing is, I look at cards a different way. Like there's fights on here I want to see. And there's fights on here that I'm anxious about.
There's some fighters I want to see.
That's what I'm saying. But there's fights there's not necessarily the fights where we know, we'll get clicks off that, we'll get clicks off that, we'll get clicks off that. You know what I mean? Alexa Grasso, Tatiana Suarez, that's going to be a good fight.
We would get clicks off that.
Wow, yes, to some degree.
Veronica Macedo?
Yes.
We would
get clicks there. But Jared Cannonier versus Dominic Reyes, I like that fight. I mean, there's fights here that we would get. I don't know if we'll get the big sell. So I'm kind of thinking I should just pocket that request to the bosses, I guess. And
yeah. Cummings, that's a good one. Prazeres.
I know.
Yeah.
You see,
there are some people. It would be a good.
Humberto Bandenaia is making his return as well against Gabriel Benitez. I like Enrique Barzola. That dude just comes out to scrap every time. Henry Briones, Frankie
I
Saenz.
was just thinking on that. That's
See,
a fun
man,
one.
there's some fights that are
Yeah.
good.
1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 13 fights.
It's just I don't know if we would get that like big, the big click
That's like,
fight.
It's I mean, like that's the thing. Like I don't see, outside of Usman going outside, but see, you can't engage Maya. Maya's not going to give you anything crazy. Like you're not going to get crazy shit talking happening out of that. You maybe get Usman, but there's nobody that really is going to like crazy unless Paul or Chad Lepre and Vicente decide to go crazy for some particular reason. Like, yeah, I mean, it's all a bunch of good people. It's not like anybody's going to talk shit to like really sell the card and make it blow up. I mean, there's a lot of good fights that I think a lot of diehards are like, whoa, this is really cool. But also, there's not a lot of ones on here like, oh man, I can see the shape of the division changing because of these fights.
Right.
These are kind of mid-level fights, and I don't say mid-level like they're not worth watching, but they're not shaking
Right.
at the championship level right now.
Right.
Like these are not, none of these are, even the Usman fight, that's the closest to maybe being something that's probably like getting near a contender fight, like that's it, so. But there's some good names. I mean, there's some people I would like to see.
I see what you did there.
I see. Yeah.
Speaking of people you'd like to see for completely different reasons, Nick Newell going to be fighting in Dana White's Contender Series.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I'm excited.
I knew
for
something
that.
was up, but like, why is he at the PI?
Yeah.
So.
I'm excited for that, man. I really am. First of all, I'm excited for the return of Dana White's Contender Series, man.
Yeah.
I love those shows.
That was fun.
I'm so happy they're coming back. It sounds like there's going to be a pretty long run of them, too, because they're going to do a U.S. version. That sounds like they're going to do a Brazilian version that they go ahead and film here in Las Vegas.
They're gonna send Snoop down to Rio?
No, that's what I'm saying. They're filming it up here to make life easier. Snoop Dogg ain't going to Rio. That'd be
Snoop,
funny.
they got weed down there.
Do you think they have like a Brazilian?
They got some weed
like
down
some
there.
kind of
A
Brazilian rapper.
Snoop?
They just. That'd be great.
Dude, it'd be off the hook. They're just drinking caipirinhas and smoking big Brazilian blunts.
That'd be great. But no, it sounds like there's going to be a long run of the Contender Series because, like I said, they're doing the Brazilian version too. So I'm excited about that. I love those, man. Just, a couple of hours, 5 live fights inside the Tough Gym.
It is. Those are awesome. Like, that's fun for me because I finally get to kind of be out by the table and like close and like we're literally watching. If you're there watching, even when you're sitting in the rafters or whatever, you're literally 20 feet away from the action.
At most.
It is amazing, and it gets so quiet in between the fights. Kind of like when you watch the Ultimate Fighter, like that's how it is.
Yep.
Like when those fights happen, except for the random calls that are happening from their teammates, like you don't hear anything. You hear the octagon movement, the bouncing of the wood and on the canvas and everything going, and you could hear the fence bend when they go up against the fence. It's awesome. It's unreal. So yeah, there's nothing like it, and I love the fact of getting to see these guys while they're so excited and hoping. We've spent those moments
So
in the
much
back.
on the line.
Yeah, waiting, the awkward moments, waiting to see whether they're going to get that nod and their name was going to get
You think
called.
they'll clean that up? Because that's a weird situation.
I don't see how they could
There's
unless
no place else to bring
unless
people.
they already. The only way that is if they maybe go into the fight already having preconceived notions of who they expect to possibly get them.
Right.
So then all they have to do is check mark and say, oh, okay, this guy won. Yes. But the fact that it's so raw and like they're literally making decisions from their performance that night, some discussion has to happen. So the only way
Why
that
just
maybe
they clean it up in terms of like not leaving those guys sitting in there?
well, I was going to say
with us?
that'd be the only way is that if they just put them into a different room. But I mean, there's the rooms. I mean,
There's not many rooms. There's not much
besides sticking
space
them
left.
into the locker rooms,
Yeah.
to have them hold and wait back there, there's nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
So they just
We're
bring 'em
literally
in.
sitting in the kitchen of the Tough Gym, basically.
And waiting, as awkward as it is, with camera guys just sitting there like, oh, should I shoot it? They make the small conversation back and forth, and we put.
I know at first we
We
didn't
put-
shoot it right because we felt like it was so awkward, and
Yeah.
then we just kind of decided, fuck it, as
We're
long
like,
as we're
fuck
here,
it,
let's
just
shoot it.
and it's interesting because I mean, you literally see somebody knowing that they're on the possibility of having their life change, make small conversation just to pass the time because you could see the nerves happening. You're like, damn, I would probably do the same thing. You get to see a little bit of yourself in different shades of the different people that are up there. You're like, what would I do? And it's it's so raw that it's captivating, and it's awkward as fuck sitting there. Like, it's almost uncomfortable to where it's like you almost want to walk away and not have to share the moments. Like, you ever watch a show and somebody just does something so awkward and you just kind of cover your eyes and you're like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this. You almost feel that awkward at times during some of the moments. You're just like, holy shit, I feel so awkward for these guys. I wish they would just come alleviate the stress and the worry that they are, like. So, and there's nothing glamorous or glorious about when they do make the decisions, like the ones, so-and-so, come with me, baby, you made the UFC, and then come back, and then you got the last 3 that are sitting there.
That's it.
Sorry, guys. And they even got better by the end.
Because at the beginning they wouldn't say like.
They wouldn't say. They were just. It was just like nothing. And the guys were like, "Are we done?"
And then like literally the cameraman would get the call in the ear like, "Hey, we're done with you." So the cameraman would just like walk out, and they're like, "I guess they don't need us anymore."
Yeah. So awkward. And
That
then
was
they got
awkward.
to the point where now they at least say,
Sorry, baby,
they
not-
like your
not this
like your
time,
performance.
baby.
You didn't do enough, but come back, and it's like, okay, that's not even that. Like, could be practiced a couple times and make it come off, But yeah, that's I guess the wonderful thing about the whole contender thing. It's so raw. It's so in your face, that it's amazing. But I think I thought Felder did a great job on a lot of those, and you see where that worked out for him, getting a lot of these other shows. So I love it. I love that it's in our home. We
just roll down the street. Dude, it's super close to your house.
Yeah, it's literally less than 10-minute drive from my house, so I love it.
It's a great way to spend a Tuesday night.
Right?
All right, so listen, I said we were busy today. Here's another interview we got a chance to do. This was kind of cool. Art Davie was actually in town filming some stuff. The 25th anniversary, of course, is this year. It's a year-long celebration for the UFC, and they're putting together some packages and some pieces.
I got your package right here.
Wow. So inappropriate.
Sorry, that was the tart. That was the tart.
That was
making
the
me-
tart peach Cole's
Tart
talking?
peach
That
Cole.
was very tart of you, sir. That was very tart.
Yeah, tart.
But yeah, Art Davie was in doing some filming and doing some other stuff. Kind of, again, they're doing a lot of video work for this 25th anniversary stuff. And they just asked us, hey, would you like a chance to talk to Art Davie? It's like, you know what? Here's a guy that helped start the UFC. There's debate sometimes over who was responsible for what and how it was done, but there's no question about what Art Davie did behind the scenes to help make things happen. Just pushing this concept and this idea nonstop when he kept getting the door shut in his face and helped kind of usher the first few years of everything past UFC 1 before he finally stepped away. And now, he was available to us to talk about his experience. And I thought, hey, why the hell not? If they're going to give you that opportunity, let's hear it. So this was the conversation we got to have today with Art Davie.
I think a lot of people know the story now of how the concept came to pass and how it got developed, but I think people forget maybe how difficult it was to actually get this thing greenlit and to get it moving forward. So can you kind of recall, once the concept was developed, how tough it was to actually get somebody to say, yes, we'll do this?
Well, that's a really good question. This was a process. Early on, I had the idea for something I called, the working title was The World's Best Fighter. And that became War of the Worlds for a while. But it took a while to get Rorion Gracie on board. He wanted to do the Gracie Challenge, and everybody and his cousin had talked to him about that. But I did his advertising for free, and that really won him over. So I was able to get over that hump. Then we went out and got 28 investors to give us the capital to be able to sit at the table with the big boys, as I used to call them. So that was another hump. We had to convince 28 people to open their checkbooks. Then we had to find a TV partner, and that's where the real opposition came. I mean, Lou DiBella at TVKO, Jay Larkin and at Showtime, Michael Oresco at ESPN. Everybody pretty much said the same thing to me. What else you got? I said, this is it. And they all said to me, look, if you want to go to pay-per-view, that's the home of big boxing and big wrestling. But remember, that was my original epiphany, that I would figure a way to monetize the martial arts. Because when you think about it, if you was any good in the martial arts back in the day, you got out of the martial arts, you went into TV or the movies. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, they all did that. I had the idea that we could make the martial arts a place where athletes could make money. Probably my greatest pleasure today is running into a wrestler who says to me, if it wasn't for you, I'd be coaching at some college out in some town just outside of Bogalusa.
So you think the concept is great. I mean, you're sold on it, right? It makes sense to you, but you keep hearing no over and over and over again. What keeps you driven? What keeps you going to where you don't just say, guess this thing isn't going to work?
You know, I really had two things going for me. Number one, on July the 13th, 1964, I got my butt kicked by a wrestler. That's the real beginning of the UFC for me. I was out on the beach with some friends, and this guy gets introduced to me. He's the third in the state championships, and I had been taking boxing lessons at the time. I thought I knew what I was doing. Well, one thing led to another. We wound up sparring, and I wound up with a double leg takedown on the beach on my back. So that was the opportunity that I got right there and then to get aware that there was something here. Now, in all fairness, you got to fast forward a few years, and when I'm in the Marines in 1969, two of my buddies go over to Thailand, and they come back from the R&R telling me about a mixed match that they had seen in a Bangkok nightclub between an Indian wrestler and a Muay Thai kick fighter. Man, we talked about that for a month and a half. So I was early on thinking about the fact that this was a great idea. But you know what really inspired me? It wasn't the kumites in Asia, which everybody talked about, which nobody had actually really seen. It was pankration. My homework told me that for over 1,000 years, the early version of the UFC was the biggest thing in the ancient Greek Olympics. So when people were saying no to me and slamming the door in my face, I was convinced that I was onto something. I was bringing back something that had been great in history. When I met John Milius through the Gracie Academy, who was not only a great screenwriter, but the director who made a star out of Schwarzenegger and Conan the Barbarian, Big John said to me, Arturo, he said, this is like Excalibur. It's like you're pulling the sword out of the stone, but it's an old sword and an old stone. It's the truth.
So 25 years ago, you get the call and we're go, but there's still a lot to do between now and November, right? So give me an idea of how the work began and where you progress from here to November of 1993.
Well, you know, right after we got the green light with Semaphore, now the real hard work had to start, because actually one of the biggest sales that I had to make, I had to get 10 fighters to say yes to coming to the Octagon in November of that year. Now, I came up with most of the fighters. Horian came up with his brother Hoyce, and he introduced me through Frank Trejo, a Kempo guy in LA, to Zane Fraser, their IKF super heavyweight champ. But I had to get all the rest of the fighters. So I got ads running in the magazines, I got phone calls going, I got faxes going out all over the world to every association you can imagine, from Bangkok to Oslo, Norway. And everybody's saying the same thing to me. Is this a movie? Are you casting in a movie? Because my guy looks really good in front of a camera. I said, no, this is a real fight. So the battle was on to find all the 8 fighters for the tournament and 2 alternates. And I had 2 goofy ideas that I was stuck on. Number one, I wanted a heavyweight boxer, and I wanted a sumo wrestler. And you have no idea what my difficulties were when I got on the phone with Japan, with a little pigeon Japanese that I got, and I'm trying to get a sumo wrestler. And they're telling me, sumo, a national honor sport of Japan, what you want is dirty fighting. It blew me right off the phone. It was even worse when I tried to get a heavyweight boxer. I spent weeks getting Emmanuel Stewart on the phone at the Kronk Gym in Detroit. And when he finally got on the phone with me, he said, you want to get a heavyweight pro fighter to get into a ring or some sort of a situation with a guy in karate pajamas? He said, whatever you're smoking or drinking, how come you ain't sharing? So that was my difficulty early on. I had the same problem with Joe Frazier's gym in Philadelphia. So all during that summer, we're struggling to get the fighters. I didn't sign up Hoyce until July, till Horian finally said to me, it ain't going to be Hickson. I'm going to put my baby brother in. Now the big difficulty became getting the on-air talent and getting the Octagon done. So as we moved towards November, Horian and I had written a memo in which we outlined everything we wanted in this fighting arena. Bob Myrowitz at Semaphore said, how come we ain't just going to rent a boxing ring? That's cheap. I said, because we're going to do something that when people look at it, you could turn the sound off and you'll know that you're not watching a boxing match. So we wrote this memo, and we decided, I was big on having a 30-foot, almost like wushu platforms in China. I wanted a 2-inch pad underneath the canvas because we had grapplers, and I figured there's going to be guys throwing the strikers down on their head or neck with a suplex. And Horian was adamant that he didn't want a boxing ring. He said down in Vale Tudo in Brazil, in Rio, he said if guys would hit the mat, they'd roll out under the rope. He said it stops the fight, the referee, it's a problem. So all summer long, we're thinking about some sort of a situation that we can fight in. And Semaphore came up with 2 set designers from Hollywood, Greg Harrison and Jason Cusson. And these 2 guys were geniuses. And given the memo that we had written, they sat down and came up with 4 or 5 different, including one that had fake boulders and barbed wire on the top and torches. I had a temporary brief bout of insanity where I was thinking about something with a moat, something with a electrified copper pad on the perimeter. All summer long, it was a great debate. And the beauty of what we were doing was nobody had ever done it. So any idea was good until we could prove it, good or bad. But as we got working forward, we finally got all the fighters. The octagon got built. We lined up some talent. Semaphore did a good job of bringing in Jim Brown, Pro Football Hall of Famer, as the color man on the broadcast. I had a dopey idea at the time of bringing in Bill Superfoot Wallace and Kathy Long, the Queen of Mean, and they had been having an ongoing argument in Black Belt or one of the magazines about whether or not women belonged in a combat sport. So I thought there'd be this great energy between them. They were flat as pancakes on the show. But we finally got close by November, and I think we were originally trying to do this on Halloween. And we had some pay-per-view conflicts, and eventually was scheduled for November 12th, 1993. I think Semaphore thought we might only get 30, 40,000 buys. We did almost 89,000 buys for the first show.
You talked about getting the fighters together, and it almost, when you look back on it, I mean, you look at the cast of characters you did get, it almost seemed like you did get a movie. You know what I mean? The guys there. So I wonder, what was the balance? I mean, you get promotion, but what was the balance in getting the guys that you got? Was it, let's make sure that we got the most legitimate martial artists we can find? Let's make sure that we've got personalities that we can build off of, somewhere in between. How did you strike that balance?
People have asked me about the selection of fighters starting with the first UFC. I'm very proud about the fact that 8 of the 14 fighters in the UFC's Pioneer Wing were fighters that I recruited. But I always said that my ability to be able to pick fighters, you should have seen the ones I said no to. And there was a lot of strange ones that I got to say no to. But I was fortunate in that was a criteria. John McCarthy used to say to me, Art, you really always used to focus on charisma. But in all fairness, the first criteria was, can this guy fight? What is his record? Everybody boasted to me they were 250-0. And when I got inundated with those kind of responses and those kind of bios filled out in the application, I decided early on, along with Mark Lucas, our director, let's just put it up on the screen. The octagon's the crucible. If they're full of baloney, they're going to prove it in the octagon. If they're any good, they'll show us. So early on, the fighting criteria. And yet, I went after people like Dennis Alexio, who might have been the best heavyweight kick fighter at the time, turned me down cold. Bart Vale, the shoot fighter out of Miami, turned me down cold. An awful lot of people said no, but I already knew that was going to happen in a way because there had always been 2 factors that hurt any mixed martial arts attempt before the UFC. They'd argue about the money. How much is he getting? How much am I getting? Or they'd argue about the rules. Can I wear gloves? Can I wear a gi? Is it going to be in a ring? That would kill it. So early on, we had to establish that the no rules situation, only no biting and eye gouging, going back to pankration. And then I was adamant that I would start all the way from Japan to get a sumo wrestler. I would go all the way to Holland to get a Muay Thai kick fighter, either out of the Maguro gym or the Chakariki gym in Amsterdam, and whether it was the Kronk gym in Detroit or Joe Frazier's gym in Philadelphia, I was determined to get a heavyweight or at least a cruiserweight boxer. And that's what I was able to do. But fighting ability was numero uno. The second thing I looked for early on, and I was pretty good at it, was a certain amount of personal charisma. I knew we were in the entertainment business. Really, it's sports entertainment.
November 12th comes, you've jumped all the hurdles, you've gotten to that moment, but there's that famous line, ladies and gentlemen, tonight you're going to see something you've never seen before. I wonder, as the doors are open, the octagon that you've envisioned and constructed is sitting there. You haven't had a fight yet, but I know there's that buzz of a live event, but you don't really know how it's going to play out. Do you remember what your emotions were like that moment, what was going through your head?
I actually wrote about it in the prologue to my book, Is This Legal? I walked through the arena and chatted with fans. They didn't know who I was. I figured, who's this guy in the monkey suit? On the other hand, I was trying to pick up the vibes of what we were now about to do. Remember that the previous night, this thing almost came apart at the fighters meeting. And if it wasn't for Taylor Wiley, who plays Kamakona on the Hawaii 5-0 now, he's the one who saved my butt because an enormous argument had broken out between Zane Fraser, Art Jimison, and Rorion Gracie over wrapping the knuckles. And when Hicks and Gracie stood up, I thought, we're going to have a brawl. Fighter's going to be injured, the cops are going to be here, and there's no show tomorrow night. So November 12th, right before the show, I don't know if I ever had a moment where I had more emotions, more endorphins, more adrenaline pumping through me than that moment. I was so excited thinking about what we were doing. I had run into Rorion down in the bowels of the arena. We both dressed up in our new tuxedos, which we had bought together. And we looked at each other, and for whatever, all of the emotions that existed between us, we pretty much always agreed on a lot of things, but occasionally we butted heads. In that moment, we were brothers of another mother. We embraced each other, and it was one of those moments where I can still remember it. We both knew that we had gotten to the top of the mountain. Somehow we've been able to pull this thing off. Amazing.
It was a heck of an adventure getting to that point. It was a huge success financially right away, and obviously it's been a cultural phenomenon for 25 years. Knowing your passion and knowing your vision for it, how hard was it for you to walk away from the UFC?
Well, you know, when I walked away really in 1998, I was really at that point, I'll tell fans this, that I was AWOL. I was gone AWOL at this point. I felt I had accomplished what I needed to accomplish. We had been under tremendous pressure from the media and from the politicians. I mean, Senator McCain was calling it human cockfighting. The New York Times said it's the most barbaric show in history. And we were watching an awful lot of the achievements that we had made be pushed back. We were losing pay-per-view by 1997. I remember when Bob Meyerowitz and I and John McCarthy flew to Denver to meet with Leo Hendry, the head of Viewer's Choice. And he had already made up his mind. We spent a whole day there showing him the new rules. John and I had been changing the rules since UFC 2. By the time of UFC 15, 85% of the rules that were adopted by the unified rules of MMA and were absorbed by the state of New Jersey in 2001 were rules that John and I had come up with. So we were watching this thing be somehow taken away from us. To some extent, I had already left emotionally. So in a way, I felt by selling to Semaphore in May of 1995, by finally leaving the UFC in January of 1998, in a sense, that was a door which I had already seen opening and which I needed to probably move through. It was time for me to move on. And I remember driving one time down Sunset Boulevard. This was many years later, and I looked up at La Brea, and there was this beautiful billboard, and Randy Couture was on it, probably with Chuck Liddell. And I remember thinking to myself, I remember recruiting Randy for the UFC, and I thought to myself, you know, I'm almost like a divorced father. Somebody else is raising his kid, but they're doing all right. And who's raising him is doing a good job, because Zuffa was doing a good job at that point.
You saw the beginning of the sport. What do you see for the future? I mean, do you still feel excited about where the sport can go and the direction that it's moving in?
You know, I've been getting more connected to the UFC and the sport in this last year in particular. And I think that, in all fairness, the UFC, as it was, as it is, and as it shall be, is going to be even greater. The reason I say that is, when you think about it, you look around the world today, it's soccer and it's MMA is really the ubiquitous sport for young men and women from 15 to 30 some odd years of age. So you look at the future of this, it can only get bigger. Remember that pankration became the #1 event in the ancient Greek Olympics. Only horse racing rivaled it, period. Not wrestling or boxing, horse racing. So you think about the potential of the UFC. I remember what John Millius said to me back in '93. He said, at some point in the future, he said, to crown the apex predator, the great white shark, the real Lord of the Ring, you could have people all over the world, from one corner to the other, all focused on who's being crowned the ultimate fighting champion. That's where this is going.
All right, so there you go. Art Davie taking it back old school UFC 1. Hopefully you enjoyed that little trip down memory lane. And speaking of trips down memory lane, Cold Coffee, I tweeted a few weeks back when we were in Glendale, Arizona, that I was now in possession of the greatest Uber audio ever recorded. Would you agree with me that that was a fair claim?
Yes, it was the greatest and the scariest. Scariest Uber ride for me, in the sense of thinking we were going to die before we made it to our location?
There were moments. There were moments where I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. It was adventurous. Jose Youngs, you're gonna hear him factor prominently into this audio as he was sitting up front. You and I were in the back seat, and this thing got underway, and it seemed like an Uber ride, like just any other. We were heading back to the Airbnb. We were out at Glendale for the weigh-ins, I believe, and we were heading back to the Airbnb to get set up at night and get a night's rest and get ready for the fights the next day. And little did we know what we were in for, but the car started moving, and we got this.
Sometimes, from time to time. Yeah, I gotta feel it though. I ain't got my weed. You know, it lift me up, and it make me not see.
Mother Earth can't see.
I can, and I can't.
Man, that's heavy.
Blinded. It's because it's like a bipolar thing.
Sure.
It's like I am and I'm not. You know what I mean?
It's heavy stuff.
I know, right? It's so
heavy.
deep. That's why you got the cold and the hot right in between.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Libra scale.
I see what you're pointing out.
It's all connected in the circle. I only get turned on when I get in the car.
Oh man.
No, I'm playing. It's all day because I'm every day.
I thought you were Eve.
I am Eve. Eve for every day. It's like ever Eve. You got the Eve. You
Yeah,
can't have days without every.
Just cut off a few letters.
Right. You can't have everything without Eve.
Sure.
You
Cut
can't
off
have
Pluto.
everyone without Eve.
They cut off Pluto. Why can't they cut off everything else?
Pluto was that guy.
That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
All right.
I don't know. I was just making that up. We all matter.
We all matter, except for Pluto.
No, I don't know what the significance about Pluto is. Was it a dog?
No, it's a planet. It's not a planet.
It was a planet?
It was.
How is it? How? I don't know. We blew it up.
Nah, I think we just ignore it.
We ignore it. We ignore it. Pluto. Who is Pluto?
Pluto was.
Pluto. That's like a number, right? PLU.
Couldn't tell you that.
When you break it down, the PLU is like a skew, a number.
Sure.
So that would be 1. I am Pluto.
Respect.
If you know. So I came from the sky. That's why they couldn't see it no more.
Venus.
All of them. Saturn. I'm setting my ass right here.
Sure. I think this is the left you take up here.
It's right here? Oh, good job, man. Let me know, man.
Trying to look out.
That's what's up. Help me help you.
Yeah, this one.
Because that's how what makes the world go around us. All of us. And I am you. You are me. Get it?
Just looking out.
Are me. You don't get it, huh?
So I'm Eve too?
No, you are me. Like the army.
Yeah,
army.
I got you. I got you.
They'll protect me because they going to be blasting for me, man.
Blasting?
Blasting. China.
Jeez.
China. Ka-ching. Who got my name?
I have no idea.
Who got my name?
Who's got what?
Who got my name?
I have no idea.
Who got my name?
Me.
What my name is?
Eve.
And what else?
Mother Earth.
Everything.
You're a bird from Venus.
Word.
I listen.
Phoenix.
I listen. You're a phoenix.
Bam. Bird.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Because it's like a circle.
Right.
I see what you did.
Everything is connected, so any word that I say is just like it is.
Respect. Circumference. Like a circle. Like the planets.
Right. Because sometimes I go in the center because I'm like radiant.
Yeah, sure.
Radiant.
Ooh. Science.
Radiant.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Yeah. It's another circle play.
Right. No pun intended. It's the truth. Yeah. Because you get me.
Okay, now look. At this point, I got to be honest with you. I was really thinking about whether or not we should be getting out of this car. We had about a good 25, 30 minutes to get back to the Airbnb that we were staying. But I was a little bit intrigued. I was Jose Youngs was handling business up there, and he wasn't. This is his hood right here, right? And he wasn't on high alert, so if he's not worried, maybe everything's okay. Like maybe this is just normal for Glendale, Arizona, heading back on into Phoenix. So, I tried to relax a little bit. I was behind the driver, Mother Earth, as she was apparently known. So she couldn't necessarily see my looks of slight shock, horror, and dismay. So I basically just tried to stay comfortable and and carry on. And it continued on like this.
Y'all bothering people or helping people?
Yes.
That's the question. I'm helping.
Mother, it's always helping.
Yes, that's the truth. That's what I do. I serve us. Get it? Service.
Service.
You know what I'm
Serve
saying?
us.
You know what I'm saying? Because I see eat. Sheena eat.
Ooh.
I see me. I see queen.
Whoa.
Frozen. I see freeze. Because I'm everybody else. Get it?
Yeah.
This me. This me. This me like. Get it? This me like.
Man, you're on a roll right now.
I be rolling.
You are cooking.
You know, because that's why I be driving. Because I'm cold.
Because you're frozen.
Uber.
Because you're
Uber.
Uber. Got him.
Y'all didn't anticipate this.
Because she's frozen. Mother Earth is frozen.
Yes. The ozone.
The ozone. Tell me about it.
Layers to this. You know, it's a lot of layers.
Like an onion. Because it's a circle. Like an
Bam,
onion.
you know what I'm saying? He helping me out.
That's what I'm saying.
He giving me some. You know? I be
see
crying
what
every
you-
day because April showers bring May flowers.
Damn, that was heavy.
Crying though, and it make you cry. That's me.
Like an onion.
You know what I'm saying?
Which is a circle, which is like a planet.
Right.
Radius.
Layers.
Bars.
Candy.
You lost me.
Yes,
That
I
one.
can. I can.
Ooh,
Be
like-
can. I bring it back. You know what I'm saying? It's Dina. Dina. Get some Dina, man.
Okay.
You know what Dina means?
I don't.
DNA.
Ooh.
I am the genes.
Ooh.
Yep.
That's heavy.
I am what it seems. The seams on the jeans.
Seems
We'll talk about him.
Oh.
Him up the jeans.
Who's him?
You hem up the jeans?
Oh, a hem. I see what you did.
Damn.
Brian.
It's all connected to the jeans. I ain't talking about clothing.
This is heavy stuff. It's probably
Right.
the heaviest conversation I've ever
You know
had.
what I'm saying? And it's the truth too.
True.
Can't make this shit up.
Mother Earth ain't lying.
Mother Earth is like surprise.
Surprise.
Here I am,
Surprise.
the bell.
Knowledge.
Ding, 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 ding.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? School, taking you to school. Ring, ring. You know when the bell rings? Boom. Class is in session.
Tell me. I learned so much.
In just a little bit of time. I can sum it up. You know what I'm saying? In every single rhyme.
Circles, Mother Earth, onions, layers.
Because I'm a bird, Mother Goose.
Mother Goose? I thought you were Mother Earth.
Because I'm the word.
but
I'm
you're
the mother.
both.
This the mother. Mother Goose. Because I got the word. I'm the bird.
Oh, see.
And the phoenix too.
Because you know what you did? Full circle.
Full circle. Connections. Pieces. You know
Pieces.
what? Look, God's plan.
It's a good song. By Drake.
I'm playing too.
Oh my God. You're just bringing everything around
Achy,
full
achy,
circle.
breaky, my achy, breaky heart.
You're just bringing everything full circle.
Yes. This is awesome.
Just talking in circles. I
No.
think.
Right. I'm boosted up.
What's that mean?
Boost mobile.
Whoa. I
I'm
thought it was
mobile
April.
and I'm boost. I'm boosted
I
up,
thought it
you
was
know?
April.
Because I got a lot of energy. E for energy. 5 hours.
5 hours.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm E everybody. E for everything. So everything E is
Like Eve.
like Eve. M-E, like me, the acronym for Mother Earth.
Whoa. That was some madness right there.
All right, so at this point, first of all, Jose Youngs is actually helping this young woman figure out where to turn, which way we're going, despite the fact that there's GPS right in front of her, pointing every direction where we need to go. Jose is basically giving this young lady directions. I would come to find later that Jose was particularly making sure that we didn't go on any highways. It did seem like we were taking a different path back to Phoenix than we had in the other days we'd gone to the arena. Come to find out, that was not by accident. Jose did not feel comfortable with this young lady going onto the highway. Yet he kept her engaged. Jose, MMA Roadshow Hall of Fame, is keeping things engaged. And not only, I don't think necessarily just for our entertainment value, but to be honest with you, probably for our safety as well. I think as long as this young woman, Mother Earth, the Uber driver is mentally engaged and fired up, it's probably for the better, right? I mean, so props to Jose Youngs for keeping us both entertained and providing a solid segment of audio here on the MMA Roadshow, as well as, just keeping us alive. Of course, none of us, I don't know if we were too in shock to realize, sometimes in retrospect you realize, man, that was stupid. We probably should have just gotten out. But we didn't. I think we were all too enthralled by the entertainment value. And maybe picking up some life wisdom along the way, like the continued nuggets that just kept dropping from the driver's seat.
You pumping me up, or you really believe?
Nah, it's some wild stuff right now.
Because I be amazing me. It's like, damn, it's a little
Me,
baby.
as in Mother Earth.
Right. As in Mother Earth.
Or Mother Goose.
Or Mother Goose. The bird. And the bird is you.
Is the word.
Because you the duck.
Because I'm the word.
Duck, goose.
I'm the duck.
Yeah, because you
right.
like my son.
All right.
You are my
All
children.
Right. Sure. I thought since you're Mother Earth, we'd all be your children.
Like Nikki? Yeah, that is right. Even my husband is my son.
All right.
You want to know why?
Why is that?
His middle name is Amr Son.
Whoa.
For real. Like TV, True Vision right here. True reality.
This is some wild stuff right now.
Right,
I feel like
I know.
I just walked through the mirror.
Look at all is in the Wonderland. Get it?
See what
Alice
you
in
did.
the Wonderland. I know, like really, I'm amazed myself for real. So you really probably ain't even amazed. You like, bitch, it's you. What's your fucking issue? You get it?
I'm just wild right now.
You get it? What's your fucking issue, bitch?
Oh,
It's
I see.
me.
I see.
Yeah.
Another play on words.
Another play, huh?
Another play on words. I dig it.
It's God's plan.
Like Drake.
God's plan.
Like Drake.
I'm just
Because he
having
never
fun.
met the broskies.
I ain't never meet the broskies. I'm like leaving these women alone. These bitches be trying to give me a motherfucking wrong answers to the questions. And I'm like, I am the bitch. I am her. I am her. Fucking light the motherfucking flame. I am her.
Wow. Like a phoenix. From the ashes.
You know what I'm saying? Raven. I be raving on.
Whoa.
About everything.
It's a wild stuff.
Proud alone.
I dig that.
Everything I see is created for me. It's like Hansel and Gretel, the breadcrumbs just to see. It was me all along.
Whoa.
It's a fantasy and it's a fairy tale. Why? Because I'm fairy Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell?
Tinkerbell. I'm the fairy. Magically. You know? With Peter Pan.
Yeah.
He's
a
awesome.
fairy tale.
Yeah. It's
Fly.
Because I talk. I tell a lot of, I tell everything. So
Sure.
that's what fairy tales.
Whoa.
A hotel, if you want to call me Ho Too, bitch, I tell everything. Taco Tuesday, motherfucker, this whole talk. I talk, and tell you, I talk on Tuesday, I talk on Wednesday, I talk on Thursday.
Hotel Taco Tuesday. What a sentence.
I'm like, I gotta take it all as a good thing, because you can't be like, oh, I'm mad that they calling me a thought. I am a thought, motherfucker. I'm a beautiful thought. I should run through your mind all day.
I guarantee you I'll never forget this conversation.
Also, you'll be like, that was Kush Green.
Yeah, I'll be like, this one time this Uber driver opened my mind. I'm pretty sure Mother Earth was my Uber driver.
Yeah, because Kush make you think, and you pretty short. I'm glad you see, that's what's up.
We're in this together.
That's what's up, man. Nothing else said, man. I'm just letting that just sink in.
Yeah.
So there it was, cold coffee. I gotta know, man. Were you fearing for your life along the way just a little bit?
I was a little scared. Not in the sense that, well, part of it was the fact that I was wondering if she was just going to all of a sudden, just let go of the wheel and expect that her Mother Earth power would drive the car. But the fact that she half the time was not paying attention to the GPS, I thought, if it wasn't for Jose in the front that told the right directions to go, we wouldn't have been on the right path, And at that point, I was like, okay, this is getting a little leery. Like, this person did not seem mentally capable of driving a vehicle, let alone getting us to our destination in a reasonable time.
And I should say there were much more minutes. I just didn't think people would find the whole ride entertaining, so I broke it up a little bit.
It was a 30-minute ride, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
About 27 minutes.
And it was nonstop.
And
from when we got in the car to when we got out. And
I considered just playing the whole thing, but I figured some people might tune out. But
yeah,
it was a bit wild.
It was the weirdest fucking thing that's happened in a long time. It was bizarre. It was bizarre. Yeah, I was and I could take a lot of shit. That was like, I've been in some crazy scenarios and in crazy countries where shit seems like weird. I literally felt like I felt out of control.
Like at some point we should just say, hey, just let us
off. Just let us out.
Just let us out.
It almost got to a point where I was like, I've had enough. Like, I'm not confident this person's going to get us in a safe manner. It's just like, I don't know. It was weird. But it's nice now because we can look back and laugh about it. We can laugh like, oh, it was the craziest ride ever. But it literally, there was a moment where I was like, okay, this could be one of those stories where people go back to say why Uber can be a bad thing. Yeah. But luckily it didn't. And, kudos to Jose for taking the blunt of that.
And just keeping the girl focused, basically.
And just keeping her focused. He was able to keep her on task, kept her going, and kept her entertained, and they kept her away from us.
You can't beat it. Those are the good times from the road. We won't be on the road for this week, next week. Then you will, I will. We'll figure it all out. We'll have good stuff anyway.
We'll figure something out.
We always figure it out. 161 straight weeks. We don't fail you.
Will you all be upset if I have Fiasco on soon?
You're gonna get some feedback on that.
I probably will.
But
But I will have Fiasco tempered with a little Fernanda.
There you go.
Maybe for a segment. Because if anything, I was going to figure in Rio, you could probably do it on your own, but you could probably toss it to us for a segment.
Yeah, gotta get a little flavor from down south.
A little caipirinha flavor.
That's what's up. Got to get the insight from down south in Rio de Janeiro. We'll figure out a way. You know what we do. You know how we make it happen, and you know how we close the show. But why do you want me to do it when you could have Mother Earth do it?
Thanks for listening.